All right.
Over the last few thousand years, we have warped our own history. Our stories of the past have been changed, altered, mistranslated, and completely been misunderstood as we rounded the curve on the precession of the equinox.
This sounds like the original voice actor for Extra Credits, doesn't it? Doesn't this sound like the original VA for Extra Credits?
Modern views of our history account for many things, but completely dismiss many very important pieces in the puzzle. For example, the pyramids of Giza. There is no modern theory that accounts for how these could have been made.
What?
Individually, each block cannot be pulled even with 50 men pulling it, let alone drag it for hundreds of miles and then stack them on top of each other 450 feet in the air, in such a precise way that even modern technology can't achieve. Not to mention having it lined up precisely with both Orion's belt, a golden mean, and Fibonacci spiral, and be a primary nodal point of every sacred site on the planet. And that's just one example. Our history is not what we think. Many things that we've been led to believe to be true simply is not. This has got to be the biggest. The field of
Wait, they had me for a second. At first I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure they learned how they build the pyramids. And then the nodal site that resonates with the arcane energy of all mysteries and the whole shit. Okay.
Archaeology recently saw some monumental discoveries that are rocking the foundation of what we think we know about ourselves. Many ancient cities such as Babylon, Erech, and Akkad that were written about in the Bible and other ancient texts were always thought to be myths because no one could prove they existed. Then, one of them was found. This led to finding another, and then another. Inside one of these cities, archaeologists found thousands of cylindrical clay tablets hidden deep within the earth under this ancient city. The tablets were completely covered in text, written in cuneiform, and tell an ancient story that spans back over hundreds of thousands of years on this planet, describing the history of the Earth and the origins of the human race in great detail.
Whoa! What the fuck is happening? This is so much cultier than I thought it would be. Holy shit. Wait, is this guy like a lol cow, or do people buy into this? Oh no, people buy into this. Oh no. I can't believe the extra credits guy. No.
Detail. Now, the first thing we all want to do is just say that they were making things up. They didn't know the history of Earth, and they were simply creating tales to explain where they came from. However, if this was true, how can we explain how they knew so many things about the universe that would seem impossible to know? Not only did the Dogons know all about the distant planets in the solar system, but so did the Sumerians. They described them all in great detail in these Sumerian records. They also knew about the precession of the equinox. That's a tough one for a historian to understand, because it takes over 2,000 years of continuous observation to actually learn that the Earth has a wobble. The Sumerians had this information from day one.
Whoa. Wait, am I supposed to be debunking this? Guys, really quick hot tip. If you are ever watching a fucking YouTube video animation that is an hour long and is telling you about the secret history of the universe and how all the chakras align, don't trust them until they start busting out the academic sources, okay?
One of their civilization. A man named Zacharias Sitchin spent a long time transcribing these texts and had put them all together in his books, but many others have also done the same, and the interpretations are always very similar. Not only that, but Thoth has also shared information about this with us, and his account matches the Sumerian records.
What? Thoth? Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Oh, I thought this was all unsubstantiated, but if Thoth backs this up, oh, yeah, No, good. No, please, carry on.
Adamus and other channelings discuss it as well. If you see all of these records and sources, there is a huge connection between the stories. Now, this story spans back hundreds of thousands of years into our past. It talks about Tiamat and Nibiru, the Nephilim, seeding the human race.
The Nephilim? Like from Diablo?
Adam and Eve, and the children of Lemuria. This portion of the story is really interesting, but not the most crucial to know. We're not going to be covering this at this time. We are, however, going to be picking up the story at the end of Lemuria, and discussing the events of Atlantis up to present day. What I'm going to tell you is a mix of what these records say, along with what Thoth has told us for some finer details. Please have your own experience while watching this. I'm not going to tell you that this is fact. I am simply saying, decide for yourself.
Oh my god, they did the meme, dude. They did the meme. Dude, I'm not telling you all this is fact or anything. I'm just saying, you know, whatever you want to believe, man. Keep an open mind, man. Bro. What if the whole universe is just a molecule in the universe of another universe? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. What? Just the ant-men?
There was a time, long ago, when humans existed at a very high level of consciousness. We were interdimensional and were very psychic. We communicated through thought and emotion, much like how animals do rather than speaking or writing.
Animals use noises and pheromones and physical gestures to communicate.
Which would seem very primitive. We lived primarily on a large string of islands called Lemuria, but there was a consciousness shift. We moved up in consciousness, and the islands of Lemuria sank beneath the oceans. At the time of this shift, a new continent rose out of the waters. We called it Atlantis. Back in the early 1900s,
Atlantis was a continent?
The United States was similar to what's happening today. People began to learn about meditation and study ancient lands like Atlantis and Lemuria. We actually found quite a bit of evidence that Lemuria existed, and it had to do with coral. See, the ocean floor does rise and fall. Coral can exist up to 150 feet under the surface of the water.
What? The ocean floor rise? How many wrong things do you need to believe to buy into this? Wait, this is incredible. What is it Hitler said? If you can get them to believe a big lie, you can get them to believe a little lie. You know? Right? That's how it works, right? So if you just lie in the entire video, you do more to engage in a mental paradigm shift than if you just do little lies. Oh, slap and slap. That's a tough question, or scap and slap. Sorry, that's a tough question, comrade. That'll take a lot of research, and there are probably people out there more suited to that task than I am. But I'll try to do more videos on it in the future.
In 1910, the surface of the ocean was probably higher because they were able to see coral rings heading away from Easter Islands for a great distance.
Wait, how does the ocean floor rise? Wait, how does that work? Wait, somebody please explain to me how the ocean floor rises. What is the heart of the earth beating?
These rings were estimated to be found at 1,800 feet, which means that for them to have existed, they would have had to be much higher and sunk slowly.
What?
Probably more important, they also found the exact same fauna and flora from the Hawaiian Islands all the way to the Easter Islands.
What?
This is a great distance, but if you look at a map, you'll see a long string. That string, according to Thoth, used to run along the western shores of Lemuria. It is only on these islands that have the same
tectonic plates? You stupid piece of shit. Do you sincerely believe that over a period of time of just 1,000 years, the sea levels would rise and then sink 80% of the distance to the surface of the water without changing the surface of the water? You can't change the fucking distance of the seafloor. The ocean rises with the bottom of the ocean. If you push the rock up, the water goes up too. What the fuck are you talking? There are people in chat who are like doing it right now. He's like, and then the seafloor rose up to 80% near to the surface of the water, and we know it because we found coral. And you guys are like, oh yeah, well naturally, just tectonic shifts. Sometimes the ocean floor just thrums in the geological equivalent of a fucking Rapidash heartbeat. No, the water goes down the drain. Ah, true. True. It all falls down the Mariana Trench.
Same flora and fauna. Same
sections of the seafloor rise, but then other sections fall. Not to that extent in that time period. Oh God. Oh no. This is an anti-chat. This is an anti-chat video. The real enemy wasn't natural. The real enemy wasn't spirit science. It was chat.
Trees, bugs, bacteria, everything. Science can only explain this if there were closer land bridges between these islands at one point. Although we were studying this at that time, World War I began soon after, and we lost interest in spirituality and the ancient lands for a very long time. After the sinking of Lemuria and the rising of Atlantis, at first the human race became scattered. We moved to various islands and continents all over the world because we didn't have a home.
Wait, so humans just lived on that segment of islands to begin with, and then Atlantis rose, and then we moved to Atlantis, and then we moved elsewhere on the planet? Why didn't we just move to elsewhere on the planet earlier?
Yet. We didn't know where to go. At that time, there were about 1,000 humans at a very high consciousness, more than all of the rest. They were called the Nakals. Today, we know them as Ascended Masters.
What?
The Nakals began preparing Atlantis to be our new home. They projected their energies across the surface of the continent in the form of the Tree of Life, not with 10 circles, but with 12, an extra on top on the island of Udal, and an extra on the bottom in the water. There were 10 components on the mainland, and even though it extended over hundreds of miles on the surface, it was projected to the accuracy of a single atom. We chose to move to Atlantis because of the Kundalini. In humans, the Kundalini is often referred to as the energy serpent that runs up and down your spine. When activated, it provides an immense amount of energy through all of the chakras.
Holy shit.
The Earth itself also has a Kundalini because the Earth is alive, like an organism, running from the center of the planet to a specific place on the surface. Wherever the Kundalini resides, the people there become the spiritual leaders of the world. The Earth chose Atlantis to be the new energetic center of the planet. After Atlantis, the Kundalini moved to the mountains of Tibet, which is why the Buddhists were the leaders in pure spirituality for the last 13,000 years. It was a very pure place. It moved again within the last 10 years, but that's a story for another time.
What? What? How? This explains everything. Yeah, don't hear you debunking any of this.
If you want to read more, check out the book The Serpent of Light by Drunvalo Melchizedek. Suddenly, in a single day, the Nakals breathed life into the Tree of Life on the surface of Atlantis. This created vortexes of energy rotating out of each and every circle. Once the vortexes were established, the children of Lemuria began to be called forth. Millions upon millions of Lemurians who had settled all across the planet began to be pulled.
Wait, I thought there were only 1,000 humans. Are these different humans? Wait, what are these? Are there two types of humans?
Toward Atlantis. A great migration began. However, the Lemurian body of consciousness had only reached the age of 12 as a planetary consciousness.
What?
Because we were right-brained, we were a female species, like a 12-year-old girl. And some of our centers weren't working yet. They had worked with these energies, but only mastered 8 of the 10. Each migrating Lemurian was attracted to one of these 8 centers on Atlantis, depending on the nature of the individual. There, they settled and began to build cities. That left 2 vortexes with nobody using them, not a single person. These 2 vortexes were pulling life toward them, and in life, you can't have an empty place. Life will find a way to fill it. Similar to if you were driving along a freeway, following another car, and you drop too far behind, someone will fill the place. That's exactly what happened on Atlantis.
Thank you for that analogy. I don't know if I would have been able to pick this together if it weren't for that one. When does this pivot to race realism? Oh, a funny point, by the way. It's been shown that people who believe in stuff like this, people whose brains work this way, are more likely to believe in stuff like race realism or fascism. If you slip into certain forms of superstition or certain forms of naturalistically driven behavior theory, then you're much more likely to start to believe in stuff like race realism.
Though the Lemurians had only filled 8 of the vortex areas, Mayan records state clearly that there were 10 cities in Atlantis when it fell.
That's the most pixelated image I've ever seen in my life.
They filled 8 of the vortex areas.
Whew, boy! Did you decode these hieroglyphics from this image?
Records state clearly that there were 10 cities in Atlantis when it fell. You can see these records in the Troano document, which is now located in the British Museum. This document is estimated to be 3,500 years old, and it describes in detail the sinking of Atlantis. To fill these 2 empty vortexes, according to Thoth, 2 extraterrestrial races stepped in. Not 1, but 2 completely different races.
Oh.
The first race were the Hebrews, coming from our future. Thoth says that they came from off-planet, but we don't know where exactly. The Hebrews were kind of like a kid who went through 5th grade and didn't make it, so they had to do that grade over again. They learned all the math, the left brain stuff, but they didn't get the right brain aspect of evolving consciousness, the doing. They didn't graduate to the next level of evolution, so they had to do it again.
Okay, so as I said about being more likely to believe in race realism, not only are they Jews, they're Jews who failed at evolution because they had no emotional spirit. I see. Okay. All right.
They knew a lot of things that we didn't know yet and brought many concepts and ideas to us that we weren't aware of yet. Now, if this is true, this would explain quite a few things about the Hebrew people in general.
I can't escape the race realism no matter what I choose to put on, can I?
Seem to have many sacred geometries hidden within their culture. It also puts perspective on the story of Exodus. Perhaps Moses incarnated into that lifetime to free the Hebrews because they were not direct descendants of humans and were being treated unfairly. Or could it be that Moses was visited by an ascended master of the Hebrews who guided him to free their people? Given what we know about dimensions and consciousness, it definitely puts a fresh perspective on old stories that didn't make much sense. We could talk about this more, but let's continue for now. There were no problems caused by the Hebrews coming to Atlantis. They actually benefited our evolution. The other race that stepped in caused big problems. These beings came from the nearby planet of Mars. See, according to Thoth, Mars looked very much like Earth a little less than 1 million years ago. It was beautiful. It had oceans and water and trees that were just fantastic. But something happened to them, and it has to do with something called the Lucifer Experiment.
What?
From the very beginning of creation, everything is simply an experiment. Creation itself was just consciousness creating and inhabiting itself in that creation.
What the? I can't believe it. I can't believe there are people who think like this. It's actually insane. This is actually insane. I need to become a fucking Posadist. Only through the cleansing light of nuclear fire is capable of purging the earth. Guys, this is an hour-long video, and it's part 12 of a video series. Here's 13 right up here. This is insane.
There is no divine plan. Spirit can do whatever it wants. Having said that, if Spirit decides to cut itself off from the rest of consciousness and create a separate reality on its own, it can do that too. This is called the Lucifer Experiment. Because Spirit is God, it can do this. There is nothing wrong with that. We've kind of been led to believe that Lucifer is evil and the devil. This just isn't true. Lucifer is just another means of perceiving the reality. It is not a unity perception of oneness, but rather a duality perception of two-ness.
Dude.
There's a flower of life pattern for Lucifer as well, but that's...
Like, what if, instead of Satan being evil, what if, like, he just spiraled away from the cosmic wind of divinity and created an entire new reality using the cosmic spiral? Dude.
That's a big topic for another time. Anytime the Lucifer Experiment has been attempted in the universe, it always ends in failure. The species will cut itself off from love and will become incredibly male, left-brained. What always ends up happening is that everyone becomes very greedy. There is no compassion for one another, and everyone ends up fighting until they end up killing themselves. More than 1 million years ago, the beings on Mars joined the Lucifer Experiment, and it failed dramatically. Basically, they cut themselves off from the unity of the universe and created a separate reality. When the Martians severed the love bond, they became pure male, logical beings with no emotions.
Okay, one other point. I hate superstition so much. Notice how throughout all of the wacky nonsense shit is like biologically prescriptivist conservative social roles. So the Hebrews are right brain and had no emotional connection to the universe. And right brain means you're pure male and that you are all logic. And left brain is pure female and you're all emotion. Notice how as hyper woke fucking wild hippie shit this may sound, it's basically just a lunatic way of reiterating conservative social roles. Left brain is the logic one. Good thing I don't give a shit.
What happened on Mars was that they ended up fighting. Mars became a battleground. Eventually, it became clear that Mars was not going to survive. They blew their atmosphere away and destroyed the surface of the planet. Nova recently did an episode on planetary magnetics, and they found some interesting things about Mars. The planet didn't have a magnetic system, however the surface was magnetized, implying that at one point it did, but that something happened. Now...
Wait, Mars doesn't have a magnetic system? That can't be possible. There has to be metal in its core. Oh, Mars does not have an intrinsic global magnetic field, but the solar wind directly interacts with the atmosphere of Mars, leading to the formation of a magnetosphere from magnetic field tubes. This poses challenges for mitigating solar radiation and maintaining an atmosphere. Interesting. That actually is interesting. I guess all of this is true then. I take it all back.
We've been discussing the star tetrahedron before, and now I want to give you a brief understanding of the Merkaba. The Merkaba was known in ancient times as the Chariot of Ascension. It is the star tetrahedral energy field around the body. All around the world, there are references to this in ancient texts. When activated to its full potential, the Merkaba, which is both a tool and part of your being, can be used to do the impossible, included but not limited to changing dimensions and traveling through the universe. Before Mars was destroyed, they built huge tetrahedral pyramids. They built 3, 4, and 5-sided pyramids, eventually building a complex that was able to build a synthetic Merkaba. After a million years or so, it's been eroded, but the proof is there. Now, because the Martians were severed from the Unity consciousness, they couldn't create a living Merkaba. They simply used it as a tool. They created a synthetic Merkaba to travel in time and find a new home. A small group of Martians tried to get away from Mars before it was destroyed, and that place they found was Earth. About 65,000 years in our past. They saw this little vortex sitting there, just pulling in life, with no one in it. They didn't ask permission. Being part of the Lucifer Experiment, they just said, alright, let's do it. And they stepped onto that vortex, and in doing so, they joined and changed our evolutionary path.
Who could forget when the Martian Hebrew star brought a race of time-traveling, all-male Martians to the spiritual vortex on Atlantis?
Thoth's father, Thome, was one of the Nakals who set up and changed our evolutionary path. Thoth's
Hello again, Thoth and Thome.
father, Thome, was one of the Nakals who set up Atlantis on the island of Udal. That island, the top of the Tree of Life, was the brain of Atlantis, and on it was a small city called Poseidon. This city is what Plato was discussing when he said that Poseidon bore 10 children, the 10 circles on the Tree of Life. Poseidon was made of 3 rings painted in black, red, and white stones, and it was the symbol for Atlantis. The inner circle represented the Nakals. The middle circle were the priesthood, called the Maya, and the outer circle represented the regular people of Atlantis. We'll come back to this down the road. There were only a few thousand Martians who came to Earth through the synthetic Merkaba. The first thing they did when they arrived in Atlantis was try to take over the continent. They tried to declare war and invade. However, they were vulnerable due to their small numbers, compared to the millions of Atlanteans, and we finally subdued them. We were able to stop them from conquering us, but we could not send them back. When this happened on our evolutionary path, we now had the planetary consciousness of a 14-year-old girl. The Martians were an incredibly male species, and also very old. So what you had was a 14-year-old girl being taken over by a 60 or 70-year-old man. We had no choice in the matter. The Martians just stepped in and said, like it or not, we're here.
Wait, I thought they lost. Wait, how did they rape the planet spirit if they lost?
They didn't care what we thought or felt about it. Really, it was no different from what the settlers of North America did to the Native Americans.
But I thought we won. Wait. Wait, I thought we won. Didn't we beat them?
Once the initial conflict was over, it was agreed that the Martians would try and understand this female thing they lacked. This emotional feeling, which they had none of at all. Things more or less settled for a while, but the Martians slowly began to implement their left-brain technologies, which the Atlanteans knew nothing about. One after the other, the Martians kept putting out these left-brain inventions, until the Atlanteans slowly began to see things through their left brain. We slowly began to become a male species. The Martians gained control, bit by bit, until eventually they had all of the power, as was their intention. The animosity between Atlanteans and the Martians never subsided, not even till the end of Atlantis. They hated each other. The Atlanteans were shoved down and treated like inferiors. It was like a marriage that the female component didn't like, but the male component didn't really care if she liked it or not. It remained this way for a very long time, until about 26,000 years ago, when the next phase slowly began.
I'm just... What I don't get is, how can you be so clinically insane to invent all of this in your head, but then bring it all back to incredibly archetypical, like, standard gender role shit? How do you bring it back to that? This would be like writing the Lord of the Rings and then having it all be an allegory for the necessity of, like, a regressive tax rate so the rich don't have to pay their fair share. Like, right? This would be like if the entire Elder Scrolls mythos was an allegory for the necessity of for the necessity of engaging in monogamy. Okay.
Before we can...
It just goes to show, by the way, where their creativity actually lies. We know that gender is a social construct. That's a fact. But these people who are so mystical, who are so spiritually enlightened, that they're able to make videos like this, these wild fucking videos, are still chained by conservative understandings of gender expectations.
Continue, we have to talk about polar shifts. See, in the 1930s, Edgar Cayce was channeling information for a geologist when he stopped and he said, "There's something you should know. In the near future, the Earth's poles are going to shift." Cayce was a brilliant man with a very strong connection to higher dimensions, where he communicated with...
What happens when your guys, what happens when your poles shift, by the way? I legitimately have no idea. Like, is that actually, like, what does that even fucking mean? Like, what are the practical consequences?
Other beings for the human race. Ultimately, it was because of his channelings that the belief system called New Age was created. This is again just putting what he was doing into boxes of understanding, because no one else understood what he was doing at that time. Nevertheless, when Cayce talked, people listened. Geologists began exploring the possibility of a polar shift, and they found something remarkable. A string of major pieces of evidence
You gotta move the pole back.
came forth and lent tremendous weight to what Cayce was saying, and they have now changed the world's view on the subject. Scientists believed that if there was going to be a physical pole shift, there would also be a change in the magnetic poles. Through studying lava beds, geologists were able to see where the planetary magnetics were when the lava beds hardened at certain depths. They found that the earlier magnetic poles were not where they were now, but in Hawaii. The last shift that took place was 13,000 years ago, and we will get there in the story soon. They did another test and found that it had shifted again.
I actually can't handle the music only being in one of my ears. I actually can't do it. I can't do it. I can't tolerate it. Future skip!
Consciousness could interact with them without physically moving. It's hard to explain because you can literally shape your environment immediately through your consciousness in these higher frequencies. In that sense, we were creators, knowing and understanding oneness, beings of love. But then we fell. We dropped back down to this place called the third dimension. We also fell in consciousness back to zero. We forgot how to use the pineal gland and it slowly shrunk to the size it is now, like a raisin, where it's supposed to be eyeball size. When this happened, we forgot how to breathe source energy into our bodies, and our lifespans went kaput. Eventually, we went from 900 years to what it is today. We had not experienced this dense reality that we had before, at least for a very long time. We were kind of like a supercomputer that gets completely wiped, no operating system or anything. We had these advanced physical bodies, but we didn't know how to use them. This is why today we are so physically advanced compared to pretty much all the other animals in this third dimension.
Wait, physically, human beings fucking suck. Human beings are slow, weak, have poor adaptability, we have poor sensory input. Are you kidding me? The only thing we have on other animals is our opposable thumbs and our brains. That's it. Our physical bodies aren't advanced in the slightest. It's our brains that are advanced. We actually physically suck compared to most animals. Yeah, we can run longer than any other animal, but for the most part, like, we're really shit predators. We fucking suck physically.
For a time, the survivors of the Atlantean fall, and there were a few, were literally hairy barbarians. We even had to rediscover fire. The reason we're having such a hard time finding evidence of Atlantis is because for the most part, the events of Atlantis took place on a much higher dimension than our physical Earth exists on right now. Everything I've drawn of Atlantis can't be taken as that's what it looked like, because it didn't. This landmass did physically exist, but the Atlanteans were not inhabiting that dimension of its existence. If the warship hadn't been protected by the Merkaba, the Nacals would have lost their memories. They retained their memories when the Earth came out of the void and began their work once more. Thoth and 1/3 of the Nacals went to the Island of the Sun in Bolivia. Aragot and 1/3 went to Tibet, and Ra and the remaining third went to Egypt.
Wait, what was that?
Aragot worked once more. Thoth and 1/3 of the Nacals went to the Island of the Sun in Bolivia.
Oh shit! The coup! They were going after the Island of the Sun! Oh shit! The CIA!
Aragot and 1/3 went to Tibet.
And China invaded Tibet! Oh shit! Oh shit! It's fucking happening! Oh shit!
And Ra and the remaining third went to Egypt, where...
The last piece! The last piece! Remember when Israel invaded Egypt? Oh shit! We're fighting over it. We're fighting over the Kingdom Heart keys. Oh shit!
They waited. Now, we're going to begin bridging the gaps between this story and our current history. In between the fall of Atlantis and the dawn of our first civilizations, who were the Egyptians and the Sumerians, there was a 6,500-year gap between them. What was happening to us in that time? We have to look at this precession chart again. This is where we fell in consciousness, point C, and this was our falling asleep phase too. Thoth, Ra, and the Ascended Masters were waiting until point D. They had to wait for humans to just evolve themselves over a 6,500 year time period until they were advanced enough to actually receive this new information that they were going to provide.
I like how this guy has to keep referring to human technological and social development as evolution. That's another really fashy thing. Like, you think they're actually physically evolving, or they're just developing technological and social progress?
Sometime in here was when the flood of Noah occurred. Because of the pole shift, the Earth went through an ice age. This is scientific fact. When the ice melted, it would have caused massive flooding. DNA is the physical manifestation of who you are. It is your soul's physical aspect. What we are seeing in DNA is changes in the codons. There's 64 possible codons in DNA, and humans only have about 22 or so. What we're finding is that there are 6 more codons being activated within these children, and they are choosing 2 of the 6. These kids are what we call indigo and crystal children, and probably the super psychics as well. Now, this is a chromosome. Basically, what this is lots and lots of DNA wrapped into this weird H-like shape. This is located in every cell and is part of your body of consciousness. What Thoth tells us is that every level of consciousness seen here not only has its own consciousness grid, but its chromosome change as well. The second level, where we are now, has 44 and 2 chromosomes. To any scientist, this is basic biology.
Do people with Down syndrome have like ascended brains? Are they like on another spiritual level? What's happening?
The first level, however, has 42 and 2, and this third level has 46 and 2. The fourth and fifth have 48 and 2 and 50 and 2 respectively. The primary physically visible difference between these DNA in all life is height. The first level has an average height of 4 to 6 feet tall. The second level, us, has an average height of 5 to 7 feet.
What? Men's average height is from 6 to 7 feet tall? Damn. Okay. I can't believe I'm a fucking manlet. Wait, then who's level 1? Level 1 is this dude? We're calling this dude out right here? This guy's just like, here's the video on ascended mankind. This is a level 1 human. And he just found a picture off Google Images of it like a chubby looking guy? What?
4 to 6 feet tall. The second level, us, has an average height of 5 to 7 feet. Third are about 10 to 16 feet, which we are about to translate to. Fourth is 30 to 35 feet, and the last is 50 to 60.
Why?
You may remember a being named Metatron, the Hebrew archangel who is the perfection of what humanity is to become. He was 55 feet tall, that guy. The last 2 heights are far in the distant future for us, though. This is a place in Egypt today called Abu Simbel. The first thing you notice is that these statues are huge, but with the information about the DNA...
They made these statues to scale. We have proof the ancient peoples were huge. Look at the size of these statues. Have you seen the Statue of Liberty? Holy shit, dude. 18th century Frenchmen must have been on an entire other level. Holy fuck.
This paints a different picture. These beings would be in the 60-foot range if they were to stand. They were at the 5th level of consciousness. These beings on a different wall are 35 feet tall. 4th level of consciousness. Here are some 3rd levels as well. Archaeologists saw this and thought that it meant that the man was just much more important than the woman, when in actuality, the kings of Egypt had 5 different names, one for every level of consciousness.
What?
Some of the kings were even able to translate into different dimensions, and that's how they guided the population with the power of the gods. In Egypt, according to today's top...
Hey, we did it again. Another way that this bullshit spiritualism reinforces fascist authoritarian ideals by assuming there's a biologically prescriptivist element to human genetic differentiation. Tall people aren't just tall, they're ascended god beings.
Archaeologists and researchers, the Egyptians and Sumerians both began their civilizations right around the same time from each other, within a few hundred years or so. Both of these civilizations emerged out of nowhere with perfect writing abilities that were not imprinted.
What? Okay. You know what? I don't know enough history to contest that. Maybe the Egyptian and Sumerian systems did just emerge out of nowhere with fully developed writing systems. I don't know.
Upon since. When they first emerged, they were extremely sophisticated and clear, and slowly degenerated over generations. No archaeologist can explain how this happened or explain how it could have happened. They placed Egypt and Sumer into a special classification called Stair-Step Evolution.
Somehow I doubt this. One other quick point of contention. Remember how fascism is based on the idea of an imagined past of glory where a superhuman variant of your current racial archetype wandered the world, controlling and doing great things. And now your state lives in a degenerated state that needs to be reclaimed and brought back to its former glory. This is literally like what leads people to fascist beliefs. Keep in mind, the Nazis believed that an ancient Nordic people who are all like 10 feet tall, the ancient Aryans, wandered the world and created all of the other races. Nazi racial theory sounds a lot like this. I mean, it's a different like flavor of bullshit, but this is very similar to Nazi racial theory. Hebrews and all. Not humans, they're aliens. And I mean, it fits so perfectly. Just replace all the weird Atlantean bullshit mysticism with Aryans and Nordics. They wander the world in their higher state of consciousness, but then the Hebrews, with no emotional connection to the world, arrive in alien ships from a Hebrew star and begin polluting the world with their emotional, hive-minded, in-group bias. Originally, the kind Nords coexisted with them, but slowly, seditiously, they began to subvert racially the purity of the Aryan world. And now we live in a degenerated state where the Jews are trying to finish the job. This is literally... That's because Nazis literally got their racial theory from Madame Blavatsky, who talked about this shit. Madame Blavatsky. A Russian occultist, philosopher, and author who co-founded the Theosophical Society. Yep. Yeah, this looks about like the kind of bullshit you'd expect to see here. Her theosophy has been described as representing a major factor in the modern revival of Western esotericism. Nice. All right. Good meme. Just point it out, guys. There's a reason why I hate mysticism.
What happened was, one day, Egypt got its language, full and complete.
Damn.
Then the knowledge leveled off. And then it got another massive leap a little while later. Then suddenly, they knew everything about water and moat systems just perfect. Then, a little time later, bam, they're masters of hydraulics.
What?
How did Egypt and Sumer do this? Well, this is what Thoth said. When we were evolving on our own for 6,500 years, Ra and the Ascended Masters were waiting in an underground city beneath the Great Pyramid. We'll come back to this in a bit. Thoth's son Tat formed a group called the Tat Brotherhood, which is a secret group that...
Can anyone explain the lore to me as to why these people have bird beaks?
...still exists today as protectors and keepers of the sacred temples. Today, they're still connected to the Ascended Masters. So about 6,000 years ago, some members of the Tat Brotherhood would wait until they would meet someone who could understand what they were going to teach them. When they found someone, they would just tune their frequencies to the third dimension and walk up and tell them information flat out. They said, hey, if you do this and this happens. The Egyptians would say, wow, look at that. Then they would go underground, wait another little while, and repeat the process.
Okay.
Over a short period of time, the Egyptian and Sumerian evolution shot up in stair steps. As for the Sumerians, they also received a more detailed story by those who were assisting them. They described to the Sumerians in all of the details they remembered. They said, this is the history of the planet, write it down. The Sumerians knew about the precession of the equinox because they were told it by the Nacals from Atlantis. After this stair-step period, we began to fall asleep further. Things got worse once more. It was our falling sleep stage of precession, and although the Nacals had given us a boost, we were consciously dozing off.
Do you think this guy has a video in 2012? Do you think this guy has a video like where he's predicting the end of the world? And then it didn't happen, and he made a video on why it didn't happen? There's no way this guy didn't buy into 2012, right? There are some videos missing. The first video in his channel is Spirit Science 4, Male and Female Energy. Wait, did he delete all of his videos before 2012? Guys, his video starts off on part 4. and it's 7 years ago, back to 2012. Did he delete everything from before then? There were way more? Did he do it? Did this guy make a bunch of videos on how the world was going to end, and then he got embarrassed when it didn't, so he deleted all the videos on the subject and pretended that he never talked about the subject? He had a different channel before? I don't know.
Know ye not that ye are two is that male energy looks at parts and female energy looks at wholes.
I fucking hate the female-male hyper magic biological differentiation shit. We have to finish this. We're finishing this with some caveats, okay?
Place called Masada in Israel. Even today, Masada is known as the capital of the Essene Brotherhood. Now get this. In this brotherhood, there were two people in particular, a man and a woman. You might have heard of them. Mary and Joseph? See, it was part of the Ascended Master's plan that they would bring in a being who would show the pathway to Christ consciousness. He would come to Earth as a second-level being, a regular Joe, and achieve Christ consciousness through the course of his life. Then, the ascension process, the transitional experience from the second to third level, would go into the consciousness grid that was still being formed. He was able to transition because he was originally from these higher levels. That man is known today as Jesus, although his name at that time was Yahshua ben Hur. If Yahshua had not shown up, we would not have had that ascension experience available to us today. None of us would be...
Yep. Guys, no, I'm right. He re-uploaded all of the old Spirit Science videos. He re-uploaded Spirit Science 1, 2, and 3 later on. I think this motherfucker made predictions for 2012 and then deleted that shit after it didn't pan out. I guarantee it. This dude's fucking insane. Look, Spirit Science 2 right up here. Spirit Science 1, 2019 Deluxe Remake. Published this year. This motherfucker deleted his shit. He's covering his tracks. He's covering his tracks. Nearly 8 years ago, Spirit Science 1 first debuted on the internet, sparking the beginning of a massive journey for so many of us, exploring the nature of consciousness, spirituality, and the mysteries of life. Today in 2019, we take that convo to the next level. In this brand new deluxe edition of Spirit Science 1, we've taken all that you loved about the original Spirit Science 1 and transformed it with updated information, a number of scientific experiments, and brand new drawings, many of which are recreations of the original art. I wonder what information you updated it on the videos that you published before 2012. Just remember that underneath all of the insane faux hippie spiritual mysticism that you see here is the mind of a grifter who knows that his credibility would be damaged if he was shown to still be peddling the 2012 Mayan end of the world myth after it was proven to have not taken place. So he deletes everything that can actually be scrutinized and means tested. He deletes any evidence of it not coming true.
Be aware that these higher levels of understanding even existed, and we would destroy ourselves. According to what Thoth said, Mary and Joseph mated interdimensionally.
Oh.
Mary could have been a virgin, physically, but she mated with Joseph in a way that would allow a soul from a higher reality to come down to Earth and have a human experience. Usually, this is impossible to do otherwise. Through Yahshua's work, he came here just like us, a total human being, but he went through these three important stages: final death, resurrection, and ascension, and gave us these experiences so that we could access them down the road. Now, as we all know, the story of Jesus has a missing piece. He was a child, disappeared for some time, and then showed up again when he was 30. In a book called The 18 Absent Years of Jesus Christ, the leading theories about where he went was actually out east to either the Himalayan or Tibetan mountains, where he became an enlightened guru. He brought his teachings back to the world after that. If you remember from part 1, the Kundalini of the planet was residing in Tibet at that time. They were very spiritually adept people living there, and remain so today. Now, on the topic of Christ, there's something else I'd like to bring up. The Lord's Prayer.
Jesus went to Tibet?
Today, we know this as the only prayer that Jesus taught. But did you know it's actually a geometric prayer meditation?
Oh my fucking God.
A man named Bodhi McCoy spent over 20 years working with this prayer and analyzing it with sacred geometry, and has discovered some incredible synchronicities. In his book, Live the Promise, he explains how the original prayer, not the extended version mind you, has 7 segments or thoughts, which align perfectly with the 7 chakras as well as the 7 original branches of yoga. Bodhi teaches how to do this prayer meditation, as well as meditations him and his wife have developed based on the Lord's Prayer, called heart dances. It's really quite incredible to see how it all works with the pure geometries of the universe. If you wish to learn more, check out livethepromise.net. If you study Christian religion and Egyptian religion, you'll actually find that they parallel in almost every way except for the Egyptians' understanding of God. Most evidence shows that Christian religion came out of Egyptian religion, and then later they went back and discredited the Egyptians.
This is so fucking...
Around 300 AD, there was a council called the Council of Nicaea, which was the syndication between the Roman political and religious authorities. Basically, the religious leaders and political leaders realized that they could unite and impose more influence on the people and control society through their unity. It's right around this time that we begin to see the manifestation of the New Testament, which was put together from scriptures and stories, some newer and some much older, which were renewed and superimposed on the life of Yahshua ben Hur, which today we know as Jesus of Nazareth. The term Christ actually stems back from much before the Bible. It comes from the word Christala, which is a word that derives from the original 7 core audible sounds of creation. When the creation of the universe occurred, the original tones were ka, ra, ya, sa, ta, ha, la. Christla actually was broken down on Earth into 2 words, Christ, which soon became Christ.
I just had a thought. Guys, what if we could apply this, what if we could apply the numerology of the universe, the sacred geometry of the universe, to more? What if there's more out there? Fucking gorilla, wipe you fuck, secret, miserable, wipe, the kiddo, maggot, fucking gorilla, wipe you the fuck, secret, miserable, wipe, kiddo, the maggot. It's backwards. Fuck maggot kiddo, the wipe miserable ass, fucking gorilla, I will wipe you the fuck out, secret arsenal. Arsenal! Through the unity of over 69 different religious texts. We've done it, boys! Someone write this down. Write this down. This is the coding of the universe. We're in, boys. I'll be arising to my I'll be arising to my enlightened fucking 18th state of reality any day now, okay? Any day now. Oh shit. Oh god. I think it's time. All right. Goodbye, friends. It's been real. All right, I'm back. I'm back from the 17th dimension. It fucking sucked there. Everyone speaks Spanish. And literally everyone. Even God speaks Spanish. Fucking crazy. I don't speak Spanish. Couldn't talk to anyone. Sucks. Getting back to streaming.
and Hla, which became Allah, which were broken down and changed through oral tradition. The symbol for Atlantis was 3 rings inside of the other. The inside were the Nakals, the middle ring were called Maya, and the outer ring were the Atlanteans. The Maya's job was communicating the messages from the inner circle out to the regular people of Atlantis.
Okay.
When Atlantis sank, the Maya took their knowledge, a crystal skull with memories of Atlantis,
Crystal
and their
skull.
calendar, and went out to what today is called the Yucatan Peninsula, birthplace of the Mayan civilization. Their calendar is the most advanced, detailed calendar on the planet.
The Mayan calendar, huh? Is it? Did it make any predictions? In this video from February 1st, 2012? When was the actual end of the world supposed to be? December 21st, 2012 was when it was supposed to happen.
And it has its roots in Atlantis.
Okay, you didn't say it here, did you?
Over the last few hundred years, a group of people
Didn't
slowly monopolized
specify.
the entire world.
That's why the
into what it
video's
is
still
now.
up.
Today, there are 13 families that are among the richest families in the world. They have their hands in next to every organization.
Okay, these are the Martians, not the Hebrews, right?
Government and control over 95% of the money. They control our modern world from the very tippy top. Today, we like to call them the Illuminati, except that's not really who they are. The word Illuminati means enlightened ones, which was established long ago as a secret society that was focused around expanding knowledge through scientific
No, we still got the Hebrew star.
and spiritual understandings. Secret societies were not originally bad, but rather consisted of those who just kind of got it. They understood information that the average person at that time would not accept and demonize. These societies had to be kept a secret because of the control that the church had and refuted against what they wanted to explore.
Oh wait, hold on 1 second. My girlfriend just pointed out to me that I didn't benefit enough from my spiritual enlightenment. Okay, hold on 1 second. All right, one more time. 17th dimension. Ah, no, the filter doesn't work. God damn it. It doesn't work on the actual cam, only in the preview. All right. Well, you know, it was worth a try. Can we fucking finish this video?
This is where Freemasonry originally comes from. If you do the research on the time periods, what probably happened was that the church, who had the majority of the control at the time, probably infiltrated some of these organizations to make sure that they were not creating plans to expose information and destroy the world order that they had created. This led to the church exposing some of the societies as devil worship and blasphemous, and fear of these groups rose. Over time, many secret societies branched off by those who were corrupt or previously infiltrated by the church, and gained more control through the church and large organizations that were being established. Today, there exist 13 families around the world who pretty much own the world, with over 95% of the money and a lust for greed, power, and control. More and more information has become present lately that many of these families may have DNA that is different than the rest of the human population. It is speculated that they share DNA that was passed down from the Martian race or other species races. They contain no love or emotion and are completely power-driven. This brings us to the end of the human history story for spirit science, but of course, it's not really the end.
We did
For
it.
one, we've only really scratched the surface of discussing many of these topics. Secret societies, for example, would take another 2 or 3 lessons to really get into. Plus...
Okay. No, please. I can't do anymore. I can't do anymore. Holy shit. This level of mental illness is too much for me to handle. I can't do anymore. Holy God.